Can we please have a moment of silence? Shh. Someone's listening to me. Someone's recording. Someone's recording me. Hey, what's good, people, man? Platinum Bearded Dread. Question, man. Have you ever considered that someone might be recording every word you say? Everything you're saying is being written down right this very moment. Now, I'm not talking about social media and, your phone being tapped and all of that, because that's another post, man. But I'm talking about something far closer to home. Something far more sinister. Now, I don't mean to sound over the top, but this bit of information could be some of the most important information that you ever hear. Yeah, man. All right, let's get into this. So who's recording you, man? Who's spying on every word you say? Who's making a record of every word you say and I say? You know who that is? Well, before I even tell you who that is, in the scriptures, and I'm sure it says it in the Bible and the Quran, that everything you say and do is being recorded in a quote-unquote book. Not necessarily a literal book, but it's engraved in your subconscious. So you can't turn around and say, well, I never wrote that, or I never did that. And then at the end of the book, at the end of your life, our life, the book is closed. So now what am I talking about, man? This person who's writing everything down, recording everything you say, everything you do is you, me. We are literally every moment writing down the words in our book based on what we say and what we do. Let me put it like this. Imagine, yeah, if you was told by a mysterious person that from this moment forth, everything you do and everything you say, good or bad, is going to be written down in a book. The book is unique and special to you because it's your book. You're literally writing down the words on every page based on moment to moment what you do and what you say. There's no eraser, or as we call it in the UK, rubber, to rub out those words and those deeds. And then at the end of the day, you can look back on those words and the deeds, but you can't rub it out. And then turn the page, you get an opportunity to start a fresh page, blank page, and maybe make those words and those deeds a bit more positive than the day before. And it goes on and on and on like that. And part of the blessing there is that you've been told. So now you're more conscious of maybe at the end of the day, looking back on rewinding the day, so to speak, and trying to make sure that where you didn't do so great that day, you can do better the next day. But bearing in mind that a time will come when you'll have your book and the book will be closed, because that's the end of your lifespan on this earth. Imagine how powerful that thought would be. I remember reading a magazine about music and stuff, because I do music myself. And they had an interview with a reggae artist. I think the artist was a Sizzler, but I can't be sure, so don't quote me on that. But he said every artist, they put out a record. That's what they used to be called back in the day. For us slightly older folk, now you have CD, you have MP3, you have downloads, but just say it was a record, or a vinyl as they say nowadays. Or nowadays, and back then as well, a vinyl, a record. And they used to have record plants where they'd have the records made, and then they'd have an imprint, where the grooves would be, where the needle of the record player would move about. Now, what he was basically saying was that when you record something and you release it as a single, be very mindful of what you're releasing, because once it's out there, you can't take it back. And he said as an artist, that's why he's very conscious. And he advises all artists to be very conscious about what you put out there, because that's your record, you can't take it back. And what's really interesting about that is that if you look at you see a lot of cases where artists have made a living talking about sex, you know, and gang violence, gun violence, and you know, all the stuff that we know we wouldn't really want our children to grow up into. And then what would happen is that after a time they grow as artists, as we all do, and they're no longer in that world anymore. Maybe they've become conscious. But the problem there is that they've left that imprint, if you like, out in the ether. And so they may be on a completely different wavelength. They may have started something completely different, but there's little children now picking up that music and being influenced by that music, even though they've long left it. Even if I look at my own children, sometimes I'm like, I mean, for the most part, fortunately, you know, I said grow them up on like reggae and classic soul and classical music and jazz. So for the most part, you know, they got good ears, man. But you know, they have to be able to explore. So sometimes I hear them hearing stuff, especially a lot of some of the hip hop, and it makes me cringe, man, because I know it's not necessarily positive for their ears. And I'm not always too quick to say turn it off, simply because they should be allowed to grow and explore. But at the same time, there's a thin line, because you don't really want them to be too exposed to that. And not just that, it makes me sad, because it reminds me of the fact that all these artists have put out that stuff into the airspace, and they may have moved on, maybe they've made millions from putting out that stuff. But now other children are being affected by it negatively. Now obviously this is not to come down on those particular artists, because there is such thing as transformation. And look at someone like Malcolm X, that alone will tell you that there's such a thing as transformation. And we can't always be held accountable. We can be, but we can't always be bullied, if you like, based on what we did in the past, because everyone has the ability to change and transform. But what I am saying though is that we can't underestimate what we put out there. You know, all them artists, those singers, they can't take back what they put out there. And it's like I said, little children now are building a whole world around those lyrics that they've long moved on from, but left children affected by it. Now, what is really interesting about this is that it's not just artists, celebrities who make records that have to start being accountable for what they put out there. It's you and me, or me and you and I. Every word we say and action we take, we are writing down in our own books. That's our record. We might not be singing it and dancing about it on stage, but we're doing it in our everyday life. With everyone we meet, everyone we come into contact with, we're writing our very own record. And just like those celebrities, them singers, them, we can't take back what we've put out there that might live on in someone else's mind and influence them negatively. So just like those guys, we have to be very, very careful and conscious about the record we're writing, the very book that we're creating for ourselves before the book is closed. I mean, it's one thing to have surveillance and social media and a wicked evil government them and all them people spying on you, writing down everything you're saying. But it's an entirely different thing when you are the very person writing and inscribing in your subconscious everything you've said, that could turn around and, if you like, blame you or at least expose you for the things you did. You can't turn around and say, I never said that. The Quran talks about it as the self-accusing spirit. There is no, a white-bearded God up in the sky looking down with a big finger saying, well, you did it. No. You are your own self-accusing spirit. You are responsible for everything that you put out there. And you can't turn around to your very own self and say, well, I didn't say that. Because deep in your subconscious, you did. And even if you've forgotten, it's there. Come to the service when it really needs to. So this really is a message for all of us, and it's a warning, and it's a serious message for all of us, because we don't want to be in a position where we draw our very last breath, but we've left so much negativity out there that's continuing to live and influence, especially children, while we've gone, because that's one of the worst things. Because then what happens is that you are really creating your own hell, because even if we don't discuss about what's on the other side, because no one really knows, but your energy remains one that will be tormented, simply because anytime your name is mentioned when you're gone, depending on how your name is celebrated or not, really says a lot about the energy that you've left behind. Like if I use the word Hitler, most people are like, evil. I mean, trust me, there's a lot more evil than him. But that's just one example. And you don't want to be one of those people that when you draw your last breath, the majority of what people think about in regards to you is negative. I hope this makes sense. And we can make adjustments on our own personal journey, because as they say, karma never sleeps. So we don't have to worry about all the wicked people that are running things at the moment, because they will get theirs. But on a much more personal, smaller scale, we can build our own present and future based on how delicately we treat our book, and how conscious we are of the words that we're inscribing in that book, if that makes sense. Anyway, man, hope this weren't too heavy, man. Who's recording you? Who's listening to you? Who's writing down everything you say? Question, Platinum Billy Dread. Tells, in my house, man. Oh, yeah, don't forget, man. Hit the like button. Subscribe or something. That way we can do this again. Cheer, man.